Hey, what's up, lowlights? Welcome to another episode of Highlights and Lowlights, where we take a look at the ups and downs, the best and worst, the highlights and lowlights of each Bills game. I'm your host, Lowlife Daniel, and in this video, we're going to talk about the Bills' 37-3 win over the Washington Commanders to improve to 2-1. And I can't even talk about this game without starting off with this defense. The Bills' defense has been incredible so far this season. Held the Jets to 16, held the Raiders to 10, and held the Commanders to just 3 points. It really should have been a shutout, but I guess shout out Ron Rivera for getting a field goal with less than a minute left, driving down the field against our backups. You got points on the board, but this defense was incredible. There was constant pressure. There were plays where they were just a meeting at the quarterback, where so many of our linemen won their matchup and everybody was sacking the quarterback at the same time. Bills had 9 sacks overall. This defense is looking scary. Sean McDermott is aggressive. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of this defense so far. And it all started up front. The Bills defense had 9 sacks, and a lot of them came from just the guys up front. Ed Oliver had 1.5 sacks. Greg Rousseau got his first sack of the season. AJ Epinesa had 1 sack and an incredible interception that he returned for a touchdown. And Leonard Floyd is just continuing to look like our best offseason signing this year. He had 2 sacks again. And Von Miller isn't even back. This defense is looking scary. Credit to the guys up front. The defensive line made things difficult. They sucked up blocks, and they made things easier. For my next highlight, Terrell Bernard. Terrell Bernard is just continuing to make plays. Like, that's all he does. He's just been given this opportunity. Starting linebacker. I'll say I was nervous. The Bills' middle linebacker situation after letting Tremaine Edmonds walk. Tyrell Dodson did not look good in the preseason. They named Terrell Bernard the starter, and he didn't play at all in the preseason. So I had no idea what to expect. But the Bills knew they had a diamond in the rough, and Terrell Bernard is just making the most of his opportunities every week. Bernard led the team in tackles, was just always around the ball. He recovered a fumble. He had an interception. He had 2 sacks. Terrell Bernard is everywhere. Terrell Bernard is proving that he's capable of being out there. More than capable. I wouldn't be surprised if Terrell Bernard won Defensive Player of the Week this week. When the defensive line is playing that well, it goes hand in hand with the coverage of the defensive backs. It's a beautiful thing. The Bills secondary allowed just 125 yards passing, and they just were making plays, looking like that Bills secondary that we're used to seeing. Micah Hyde coming back off of his neck injury that cost him most of the year last year. He got an interception. Last week I called out Tre'Davious White after giving up touchdowns in back-to-back games. I just didn't know if he was back to the caliber of player that he was before he tore his ACL. Coming out of halftime, Washington had a promising drive going 10 plays, and Tre'Davious White came away with a huge interception at the goal line to give the Bills the ball at the 1 and take points off the board. And that's what you need out of your franchise cornerback, just making plays and taking points off the board. It's really easy to be positive after a game like that. But I have to nitpick and be negative where I can. And the Bills forced 5 turnovers, and I just don't think the Bills capitalized well enough on those turnovers. I mean, just looking at the Jets game, we know what it's like when turnovers take you out of the game, and I just don't think that we took advantage. The Bills' offense was only able to score 1 touchdown off of these turnovers. And that was on a fumble recovery that gave the Bills the ball at the 30-yard line. Obviously, AJ Epinesa's pick 6 just got a turnover, got points, instant offense. That's great. But on the other turnovers, we had a punt, we set up for a field goal, and then Josh Allen gave the ball right back on the interception. But I'll talk about that later. In general, the offense just wasn't anything to write home about. I still have questions about Ken Dorsey's play calling, especially on first and second downs. We'd be in 3rd and long too often, and Josh Allen would have to run or complete a pass on 3rd down. Like, he made things happen, but we were in 3rd and long way too often. I'm just not liking the usage of Kincaid so far. Too often we give him the ball on a short swing pass or something like that, and then he has to make a play happen after the catch. But I feel like we should get him open downfield more. And then Ken Dorsey just keeps trying to be too cute on 4th down. We were passed out of shotgun on 4th down and won. We have Josh Allen. We have Latavius Murray, Damian Harris. James Cook is running well. He keeps trying to be too cute on 4th down. I'm just not seeing consistent play calling and good decisions from Ken Dorsey. Even with that, Josh Allen, I like the growth. He's continuing to play within himself. He only threw for 218 yards, but he was really picking and choosing his spots, not being careless, being aggressive at the right times. He did throw an interception, but it was on a 3rd and long. He didn't force the pass. It was in single coverage, gave his receiver a chance to make a play, and he threw an interception. It was basically a punt. And he's sliding. Again, I'm not I'm not going to say his performance warrants a highlight. He just did what was asked of him, played within himself, but I like the growth and maturity we're seeing out of Josh Allen right now. When the defense plays well, that's all you have to do. Just don't give the game away. Gonna give another highlight to Stephon Diggs. 8 catches, over 100 yards. Josh Allen kept trying to find him every time he needed a play. He was targeted 5 times on 3rd and 4th down. Like, that's who Josh Allen goes to when he needs a play. Stephon Diggs is our playmaker, and that's all you can ask for out of your number one receiver. As good as Diggs was, he can't do it by himself. I have to give a low light to the rest of the Bills pass catchers. Gabriel Davis had a touchdown catch, but that was his only catch of the game. No one had more than 2 catches. It's been a problem for the Bills the last couple of seasons, but we need someone else to step up and make plays besides Stephon Diggs. One of those people that had 2 catches was James Cook, and I'm going to give him a highlight. He's just continuing to be an explosive playmaker, 98 yards on the ground, over 6 yards a carry. He's really bringing an exciting dynamic to this Bills offense, and you can see him just growing more confident week after week. And a lot of that is because of the guys up front, so I have to give a highlight to the Bills' offensive line. Coming into this game, there was a lot of talk about the Commanders having 10 sacks so far this season. During the game, they kept talking about the fact that the Commanders have 4 first-rounders on their defensive line. Everybody on their defensive line was a first-round pick that Washington invested in. And the Bills allowed no sacks. Josh Allen was comfortable back there. When there was a little bit of pressure in the pocket, Josh Allen would take off running. The Bills averaged 5 yards a carry on offense, and that's in no small part because of the lanes created by this offensive line. They just were really dominant on offensive and defensive line. Just in the trenches, the Bills won that battle. As good as the Bills were running the ball and as good as their defense were, their run defense left a lot to be desired. Brian Robinson had 70 yards rushing, and honestly, if they weren't so out of the game, they could have gone with it more. So far this season, Tyler Bass has been on here every week, and I don't see that changing. He was 4 for 4 on extra points. 3 for 3 on field goals. He made a 54-yard field goal right before the half. Rainy conditions, on the road, doesn't matter. Tyler Bass's money, this guy doesn't miss. Washington was honestly in the game until the 4th quarter. It was 16-0 going into the 4th. All they needed was 2 touchdowns and 2 two-point conversions. But the Bills shut the door in the 4th quarter, scoring 3 touchdowns with 2 on offense and 1 through a pick 6. And the Bills showed that they could put teams away when it matters most. And the last highlight goes to Bills Mafia. They showed up and showed out like they always do. I was seeing videos before the game. Didn't matter that it was raining. They were in there. It looked like a home game where it just looked like it was blue and red all through the stands. Didn't matter that it was raining. Buffalo Bills fans will travel anywhere. Like, Bills fans are the best fans in sports, including my cousin Steven and my brother Brandon. Shout out to y'all. Happy birthday, Brandon. I'm shouting you out at the end of this video to see if you're watching. If you don't say anything, I know you didn't watch this whole video. Shout out to you. Happy birthday, Brandon. I love you. And I love you guys. That's another episode of Highlights and Lowlights. And next week, the Bills have the Dolphins for as big of a game could be for week 4. The Dolphins are rolling on offense right now. They scored 70 points, and our defense is looking good. So it should be a great matchup at Highmark Stadium. The Bills already have a division loss to the Jets, so this is an important game. But you guys already know that. It's always a different intensity when it's in the division. But right now, the Dolphins are looking good. But we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll see you out there. It's going to be a movie. And as always, stay low.